Hello, saints and scholars. Welcome back to Theolife with me, What are you doing here? Hey, what's up? Oh, no, not you. Oh, wait. No, it can't be. No. Oh, it's politics in the Bible! Ah! Okay, before I start today, I may as well just try and stick my foot in my mouth right away, just to because I'm going to mess up. Our good friend Peter delves us right into a very tough question. What should be the Christian's relationship with politics?
Submit yourself for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority, or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right.
This is a tough one because we have to remember when Peter told us to honor the emperor, he was talking about Emperor Nero. Emperor Nero was one of the most repulsive human beings who ever lived. He murdered his own mother, he murdered people who were against him, he murdered people who were distantly related to him in case they posed a threat to his authority. He kicked his wife to death and then felt kind of bad about it, that he shouldn't have done it. So he went to an orgy and he found a teenage boy who kind of looked like his dead wife and decided to castrate this little boy and then marry this teenage boy and pretend it was his dead wife. And in between murdering and raping people, he loved to persecute Christians. Nero famously blamed Christians for the Great Fire in Rome, and then to punish them for a fire that they had not even started, he dipped them in pitch and then set them alight to illuminate his nighttime parties. He was so despised by the church that many theologians believe that the epitaph in Revelations of 666 was actually about Nero Caesar. Yet here's Peter saying, hey Christians, I want you to love this guy, we're going to pray for him, want you to honor them, okay? This puts Christians in a tough position. What should be the Christian response to political authority? So today, let's examine 3 theories related to the Christian relationship with politics. The first theory is separationism. Separationists believe it is impossible for Christians to have anything to do with worldly politics. Therefore, Christians should be separated from the political arena. Separationists take Peter's statement that we are foreigners and exiles to be very literal with respect to their citizenship. They are primarily citizens of heaven and not citizens of the world.
Dear friends, I urge you as foreigners and exiles to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your soul.
They believe that when you become Christians, you switch your allegiance from your worldly allegiance to your heavenly allegiance. The idea is that the two systems are so drastically incompatible that you will not be able to successfully have both worldly political allegiance and heavenly allegiance. When I became a citizen of the United States of America, I was allowed to retain my Irish citizenship, but they asked if there kind of became a war between Ireland and US, you would have to fight for the US side. The good folks at the immigration office wondered that if there was ever a conflict, which side would I be on? And they wanted to know I was firmly on the side of the USA. Separationists kind of view the political arena in the same way. They say that there's a constant fight between worldly systems and heavenly ideas, and fundamentally you have to pick which side you're going to be on. I want to start a fight. I want to start a fight. They look to people like Peter, Paul, even Jesus Christ himself, and note that they were all executed as criminals. Wait, Jesus couldn't have been a criminal, he was perfect, and if he broke laws, that would mean he wasn't perfect. Or maybe it's a way of saying that the system under which he existed was fundamentally imperfect, therefore he was going to come into conflict with it. Separationists always believe in Christ-like politics. They believe Christians should always forgive and always turn the other cheek, where a worldly system says if you do something illegal, you're going to go to jail. What would the world look like if instead of sending criminals to jail, we just forgave them and said, hey, do whatever you want?
Screw the honor system.
Separationists believe that we should change hearts of people, not necessarily legislation. In our day and age, when we see a social issue, our first response is to make a legislative change to fix that issue. Yet 2,000 years ago, if you were a Christian who was against slavery, which all Christians were, they didn't imagine that they could address their government or write to their senator or any of those issues to try and fix this problem. They thought their best way of addressing the problem was to change the hearts of individuals so issues like slavery and slavery abuse would start to die out. They were more interested in changing the hearts than the legislation. But who knows, maybe if they lived in a world where you could change legislation by social progress, they would have moved on the legislative route. but that option did not exist to them 2,000 years ago. Separationists want internal conversion as opposed to outward allegiance. We can see this movement in action when we look at the texts of both Paul and Peter. The context of Peter's discussion about politics was in reference of submitting to people in order to transform their hearts with your love. Prior to Paul discussing how Christians should relate to the political system in Romans 13, he speaks in Romans 12 how we should love our enemies and hopefully transform their hearts with our good attitude.
Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone.
The context of both Peter and Paul's statements on political discussion is they assume the political class seemed to be an enemy, and our best way to transform this enemy was to transform their hearts. Separationists also believe we should not use the violence and incentives of the government to bring about moral change. When the government wants to enforce a position, they generally use violence. Separationists believe we should not use state-sponsored violence in order to achieve Christian ends. Government's primary means of achieving their ends is usually through incentives and violence. When the government wants everyone to wear their seatbelt, there will be a financial punishment for you not doing so. Fail to pay your ticket, you're going to get a bigger fine. Fail to pay that fine, you'll lose your license. Drive on a suspended license, you're going to jail. Try and escape from that jail, they will use violence to keep you in that jail. Fundamentally, violence is the primary means governments use in order to achieve their ends. Let's imagine this from a Christian perspective. Let's imagine there was a law which said non-essential businesses could not open on the Sabbath. It's a perfectly good biblical law, but in order to enforce it, we would have to hire the states to use state-sponsored violence in order to achieve those ends. We would have to use non-Christian means to achieve Christian ends. Separationists believe it is wrong to have unholy means to create holy ends. Therefore, they will not partner with the government to achieve their ends. Groups like the Mennonites and the Amish and Jehovah's Witnesses will not participate in politics in any way, such as voting, running for office, or serving in the military. Yet they do pay their taxes and frequently benefit from government programs. Position number 2 is dominionism. Dominionists believe that government should be run by Christians and legislated based on their understanding of the Bible. Groups like this believe we should Christianize our country by changing our laws to look more like Christian laws. They believe that if God is against something, there should also be a law against that thing, and all people should be forced to be in line with that law. Let's take an issue like homosexuality. The Bible is against homosexuality, and Christians are against homosexuality, therefore let's make laws against homosexuality. Many Christian dominionists believe that we should outlaw homosexuality and gay marriage. Other areas dominionists want to have legislation on is areas such as sanctity of marriage, abortion, prayer in schools, teaching of evolution, and other issues. Unlike separationists, dominionists believe in using non-Christian means to achieve Christian ends. They believe it's okay to use state-sponsored violence in order to accomplish Christian ends. Let's process that for a minute. Let's take our friend Steve. Steve is homosexual, and right now, it is perfectly legal for Steve to enter into a consensual homosexual relationship with an adult of his gender. He is also completely legally entitled to marry said adult if he so wishes. Let's say we change the law to make it illegal for Steve to engage in homosexual acts or in the act of marriage. A dominionist would say this is a good thing for Steve because he can't do something morally wrong that would taint his soul and society around him. A separationist would say, you haven't helped Steve's soul at all. He's still in the exact same place spiritually he was before. Now he just really doesn't like Christians. Famous Christian dominionists will be people like Jerry Falwell, Jim Baker, Paula White, or James Dobson. Finally, let's look at pragmatists. A pragmatist would say, you can't have a fully Christian government, so let's just create the best government we can. A pragmatist would look to the words of Christ when he said his kingdom is not of this world, and they would understand that Christ was establishing a heavenly kingdom that really didn't have much to do with the worldly kingdom. They believe a kingdom is coming when Christ is going to set all things right, but in the meantime, we are not supposed to run a worldly system according to biblical interpretation. They take the words of render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's to mean that there are sort of two systems of government which don't necessarily have to be in alignment. They would say Caesar can run the political realm, whereas Christ runs the spiritual realm. Pragmatists might say I should forgive people in my interpersonal relationships, but when people break the law, they should go to jail. One is the spiritual realm of the interpersonal, the second is the realm of Caesar. As a Christian, I should pray for Putin. In a worldly perspective, we should bomb the crap out of him. They would say Christ's commandment to turn the other cheek and to give to those who need it and to keep forgiving was something we do in our personal day-to-day lives, lives, but it's not something the government should be doing. A pragmatist would very firmly say a Christian should not be a welfare bum. They should not depend on the government to do their job for them. They would say it's the point of government to bring comfort, prosperity, and preservation to its citizens. But that's not the job Jesus was trying to give himself. A Christian pragmatist would say, from a political perspective, there's such a thing as a just war. It's fine to have punishing laws, and it's okay for us to have budgets which don't always give to the poor, because primarily, those things are not the job of government. A pragmatist would say, Christ is here to save souls, but leave the running of government to the kings. This system of thought is very popular with many Lutheran, Anglican, and Catholic groups. Let's close today with a review. Despite the horrendous treatment by the government against Christians, Peter still instructs the church to be respectful and submissive to government authorities, including that of the emperor. This potential contradiction has led many theologians to speculate how should Christians relate to the government. There have been 3 theories put forward to define this relationship: separationism, dominionism, and pragmatism. Separationists believe that Christianity and government are naturally in conflict with one another. Therefore, it is impossible for Christians to participate in worldly or heavenly politics. Separationists will have as little to do with worldly government as possible. Dominionists, on the other hand, believe the Christian should run the government and legislate for the government based on their understanding of the Bible. Pragmatists recognize the contradiction and realize you cannot have a fully Christian government, so the best thing they can do is create the best government that they can. Thank you for joining us on Theolife. May God be with you.